Welcome everybody, and thank you for coming. I have to say, that priest is a hard act to follow. I was really hoping for a very dull, speech and presentation so that mine might just seem mediocre, but whatever. Here we go. So, as father of the bride, it's my great honor to welcome you and to kick off the celebrations this evening with a few words of welcome. I'm a kind of warm-up act for the better speeches to come afterwards. I've already had the great pleasure to meet most of you this week, actually, which has been fantastic. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Bill. I'm Ellie's father. Ellie's very proud father, obviously, today. On behalf of myself and Julie and Diane and Philip, a very warm welcome to everyone and a big thank you for joining us today to celebrate this wonderful occasion. I've got quite a big list of thank yous to get through in the short time available, so let me kick off first by saying thank you to the people who matter most. And that, of course, is Ellie and Ollie. Ellie's hand went up there, did you see? She'd already worked it out, yeah? I just want to say to both of you, thank you for having the very good sense to get married to each other. And thank you for being possibly the best-looking couple ever to get married. I mean, look at them, ladies and gentlemen. One can only admire the genes that produce that. And thank you both also for having taken such time and care to choose such a beautiful church and a fabulous venue to allow everybody else to enjoy your special day. I also want to say a big thank you to Philip and Diane and Odette for the very warm welcome they've given to Julie and me and Michael and Sophie as Ellie and Ollie have brought us together. Thank you very much. They're a really great family, and I'm very pleased to think that we can have so many opportunities to share memories together in the future. So that's fantastic. I also want to thank, while I have a captive audience, the one person in my life without whom none of today would have been possible. My darling and beautiful wife, Julie. So, thank you very much, Julie, actually, for giving me three very beautiful children, and thank you in particular for giving them most of your genes so that they look. Ellie, you're so lucky you didn't get my nose. Before saying anything else, however, I should perhaps at the outset provide the usual disclaimer that I lack any real experience as a public speaker. Moreover, having spent over 30 years of my life living in a house with three wonderful, dynamic, and vivacious women blessed with intelligent and well-argued views on nearly every subject, there have naturally been few occasions when I've needed to speak for myself, or even to have opinions of my own. You can imagine, therefore, that today is a very special occasion for me. To be honest, though, I've been vaguely terrified of how best to execute my responsibilities. Ellie taught me I could say a few words as long as I promised I would not embarrass her. I duly promised. But fathers, of course, as many in this room will know, promise their daughters many things. I thought long and hard about what stories from Ellie's childhood I might share with you. I thought, I can tell them about that time, actually. That's a good one, actually. And then I thought, no, I'll cry. And then I thought, no, I know, I'll tell them about the other time Ellie and I were together when this thing happened. And I thought, no, I'll cry. Actually, I'll tell them that one. And then in the end, I thought, I'm either going to say nothing or I'm going to cry. So I apologize in advance if I do start to blubber halfway through this. Instead, I turned to the family photograph album for inspiration. Good idea, by the way. And sure enough, there was a photo of Ellie on all fours, dribbling and gurgling, trying to take a few tentative steps. It's the only photo we have of Ellie's hen night, so you can imagine. It's a very special photograph for us. Actually, to be honest, it's been quite difficult to find any embarrassing moments from Ellie's life to share with you, as she had the good sense to have most of them outside of her parents. Although we had our spies, as we see from the photographs, actually. And I do remember occasions, though, when I'd get home from work and from trip abroad or wherever, and Julie would tell me I had to have a stern word with our daughter about some indiscretion or unreasonable attitude. I would duly summon her for a stern lecture on the fact that life is not always about having what you want or doing what you want to do. Instead of arguing, as teenagers are wont to do, Eleanor would, however, normally be disarmingly agreeable with my views. And so I would find myself 5 minutes later speaking to Julie and explaining how very reasonable Ellie's requirement was. It's a very impressive skill, Ellie, and I still don't entirely understand how you do it. But Ollie, be warned. She's a real professional, and if you don't work out what it is you're supposed to do, she can even be very generous at giving you enough time to finally get there in the end. Of course, as the father of such a beautiful daughter, I have spent years setting all kinds of impossible requirements for any man stupid and audacious enough to think he was good enough for my daughter. And I spent hours developing all sorts of nasty strategies to get rid of any man foolish enough to even try. It was with this spirit of open-mindedness that I first met her. I hardly had any time to set the traps, however, before Ollie had won me over with his impressive charm, his impeccable manners, the respect he showed Julie and I as Ellie's parents, and the endless patience and interest he showed while I shared my views on all sorts of esoteric and tedious subjects. I have to say I got a little suspicious when he taught Julie he liked the little annoying yappy white dog that she has. But I'm glad I gave him the benefit of the doubt. He's a great guy. Diane and Philip, you must be very proud of your boy. I promise you we'll let him have you back sometime. You have him back. Of course, telling people that they can't always get everything in life that they want is also not true. When I look at Ellie and Ollie together, I can see that is exactly what they have in each other. Ollie, as you can imagine, all any father who loves his daughter wants for her is to find the man she loves and for him to love her back and protect her and care for her always. That's why I'm a happy father today. Ollie, Ellie is very lucky to have you as a husband. Almost, she tells me, as lucky as you are to have her as a wife. Time flies, of course, doesn't it? I can hardly believe that it's nearly 30 years since Ellie came into my life. I said nearly. I remember them handing her to me in the hospital and telling myself that I must be the cleverest man in the world to produce such a beautiful girl. Julie was largely indisposed at the time, having had a cesarean section, but I still remember doing my duty as a husband and father by regularly visiting the room where all the babies were kept, and then running up to Julie's ward to reassure her that we definitely had the most beautiful baby. To be honest, I did this with each of our children, but I think you will agree as we sit here today and observe the bride that I definitely had a point. Darling, you have always been beautiful, but you have outdone yourself today. I don't think I've ever seen you so radiant. Unfortunately, I don't have time today to bore you with all of my seedy jokes, as Julie told me not to go on for too long because of my throat. Apparently, she will cut it if I do. I want to finish, therefore, as tradition dictates, with some advice to the newlywed couple. Someone once said that when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible. That's why we're all here today. That's why you're now Mr. and Mrs. Friedman, and that's why we are all delighted. More humorously, someone else observed that I love being married. It's so great to find that one special person you want to annoy for the rest of your life. I hear howls of recognition. The great Albert Einstein advised that any man who can drive safely while kissing a pretty girl is simply not giving the kiss the attention it deserves. Something perhaps for you to know, Ollie, actually, when you renew your car insurance. More worryingly, perhaps, someone also noted that my wife dresses to kill. She cooks the same way. But fortunately, I understand that Ollie does most of the cooking. I don't need to worry there. More seriously, I can tell you that a successful marriage is not just about finding a person you can live with. It's rather finding a person you can't live without, and I know that you found that with each other. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time I've had the honour of walking a daughter down the aisle. And it has been one of the proudest and happiest moments of my life to see my darling daughter marry the man she loves. I can't think of a finer man to pass it on to. I know you will treasure her, Ollie. She's been a constant pleasure to her parents, as I'm sure she will be to you. Ellie, let me say this one more time. Never was being a parent so easy and so rewarding. We're extremely proud of you and everything you have done and achieved. You've been a joy since the moment you were born. And never was being a father so easy, which is pretty good given you had me as a father. It was handy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm getting close to outstaying my welcome. And I can see the next speakers like a coiled spring. It's therefore my very great honour and immense pleasure to propose the first toast to the happy couple. So I'd like to ask you, please be upstanding and raise your glasses. To Mr. and Mrs. Oliver Friedman.
Mrs. Oliver Friedman.
That's very old. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Great job.
Cheers. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I still can't believe this is happening. It seems like only yesterday that my parents packed my bags and sent me off to a monastery to go to school with 300 other boys. The thought of even talking to a girl back then, let alone talking to a girl, let alone even marrying one, seemed ridiculous. But before I talk about how we got here, I want to thank every one of you for coming and celebrating with us today. Okay. It really is an amazing thing to have all your favourite people in the same room. And each of you are here today because you've made an impact on our lives. And so on behalf of Ellie and my wife and I, I'd like to thank you all for everything you've done for us. I'd like to say a particular thank you to my mother and Susie for doing such an amazing job on the flowers around us today. As you can tell by how amazing this place looks, a huge amount of effort went into organising them, and Ellie and I are extremely grateful. So thank you both very much. Now, 4 of Ellie's most esteemed guests here today are her lovely bridesmaids. From everyone I've spoken to about Ellie's hen do, the main thing that struck them was how much effort you guys put into the whole weekend. They organised all sorts of stuff. They brought bunting to the park, but most crucially, organised a Sound of Music tour, which you may have noticed from the church would have gone down particularly well with Ellie. I've always been very impressed with how each of you has gone above and beyond the normal call of duty as friends. Certainly beyond the call of duty that my ushers have been accustomed to. Easy joke. So on behalf of Ellie and myself, please can I ask you all to stand and say a toast to the 4 lovely and beautiful bridesmaids. Cheers. Cheers, Sophie. Cheers, Holly. Holly,
Sophie.
cheers. Cheers, Holly. Relax now, Bella. There we go, you're in.
Everyone's laughed already.
Now, silence.
Calm down, Charlie.
Now, one of the main reasons we're all here today, drinking what I can assure you is unlimited wine, is Ellie's parents, Bill and Julie. For those of you who don't know, Bill and Julie live in Kent. So when Ellie told them she was getting married in Somerset, you can imagine they were mightily disappointed. Perhaps raging you. Well, all I can say is, I hope you enjoy and approve of what we've done. You've both been incredibly supportive and generous throughout the whole process. So thank you both for bearing with us.
You're very welcome.
Now, it's fair to say my introduction to the D family was pretty terrible. Before I'd met them, my best man Tom and I decided to throw a baby-themed fancy dress party. I admit it's pretty weird. Ellie was there. Ellie was there, as with many other people here today. And whilst the evening went off without a hitch, Nadia's dancing on a window ledge being one real point of concern. The lasting legacy of the evening was a photo of me sitting in a paddling pool filled with lots of plastic balls, wearing nothing but a nappy.
I've still got it.
Now, if the shame of that photo wasn't enough, then to make matters worse, Bill somehow found this photo on Facebook. Now, not one to be fazed by such behaviour, I suspect you've done a lot worse in your time. Bill waited until he was alone in the car with Ellie before mentioning anything. And I believe the conversation went something like this. You know, I saw a picture of Ollie on Facebook. Oh yeah, Ellie replied. Yes, he was wearing a nappy. Then there was a big pause for thought. And he rounded off with, you know, there's a condition for adults who wear nappies. At that point, I knew I found a like-minded family. I know Ellie wants to thank you all more explicitly in her speech, but for my part, I'd like to say a big thank you to all four of you for being so welcoming of me, so supportive of us, and most of all, for raising Ellie into such a wonderful person. When I sat down to write this portion of the speech about my parents, I had loads of stories, mainly involving the blowing up of stuff with WD-40, or even once a petrol bomb. But when it came to writing them down, it was obvious that whilst hilarious, these were stories about us children running around and didn't give any insight into my parents. Then it occurred to me that the very reason that I have these ridiculous stories was because of their parenting style. Now, it's fair to say that whilst my dad's nose is widely regarded as the finest in Somerset, his nose for parenting is not so legendary. He was much happier reading books and playing the piano. So the parenting was left largely to my mother. But asking an Irish girl, particularly one as laid back as she is, to control 3 little children will always end in disaster. So whilst Odette and I were heavily schooled in the very important things in life, like impeccable table manners, always looking someone in the eye when talking to them, and of course, ensuring a guest always have a full drink. What us children got up to away from prying eyes was fair game. It made for an incredibly exciting upbringing. And whilst I can't comment on myself, Odette, for one, has turned out to be a fabulous young woman. something right. You've managed to instill in us a great sense of family, as is evidenced by my choice of ushers today. 3 of them are cousins of mine. And you've done your utmost to give us the best possible start in life at a considerable cost to your own. So I'd like to say a big thank you for being such amazing parents. And so I've got to the point of the speech where I'd like to talk about my new wife. And no better place to start than what first attracted me to her. For our first date, we met up in London for a few drinks. Ellie turned up late, but it was worth the wait. She walked into the pub, blonde hair everywhere, looking absolutely amazing, and strolled over to the bar. She said hi, and then casually ordered a pint of cider. Now, I don't come from a long line of cider drinkers, so when this pretty little blonde thing came over and ordered a whole pint of the stuff, I was totally sold. The rest of the date was totally irrelevant. She could have been sold to me all afternoon because the little blonde cider drinker had totally hooked me. Now, one of the things you can bank on is that Ellie will always look absolutely beautiful coming downstairs in the morning. And while she does spend a bit of time trying to look her best, in a good way, one of the things I love about her is that she's not afraid to get stuck in. I remember a particular ice skating trip on a disgusting winter's day. It had been raining non-stop for days, and the ice was more like a lake than an ice skating rink. Everyone was absolutely soaking wet and completely miserable. But there was Ellie, still skating around the rink, long after everyone else had given up. She was totally drenched, had makeup all over her face, but still had a huge smile on her face.
Yes, so true.
And this was one of the things that I love about Ellie. As many of you know, as many of you will know, aside from being the greatest conger eel fisherman in the southwest, I have an extremely bad memory. So in preparation for this speech, I looked through all the photos of Ellie and me on Facebook. And scrolling through brought back so many wonderful memories of the countless places we've visited, the parties we've been to, even the homes we've lived in. And it's amazing to think all this has taken place in just 5 short years. But in that perspective, it's exciting to think about what we've got in store for us for the next 50.
And more.
I feel incredibly lucky to be able to spend these years with someone so kind, fun-loving, insanely competitive, and surprisingly supportive, and most of all, with the ability to make me laugh. So, if you will all be upstanding, and I'd like to say a toast to Ellie, a beautiful bride and a budding wife. How do you want me to introduce you?
Oh my God, you're in so much trouble now.
If you wouldn't mind staying silent for a few more moments, Ellie would like to say a few words as well.
I just want to say that, as most of you know, it is impossible for me to get through any important or even slightly emotional moment in my life without crying. This happens regardless of whether I'm happy or sad, and whenever I encounter any slightly challenging situation. When I break down on the side of the motorway, when I have any kind of discussion about my career at work. When I try and get dressed in the morning. So the chances of me not crying today are pretty slim. But please feel free to laugh at me when I do, or to develop a drinking game related to the number of breakdowns. So, to get the ball rolling on this, I'd first like to thank my parents for everything they've done today to make today happen. We really wouldn't have been able to do this without your love and support over the last few months. Not many parents would let their daughter plan a wedding without supervision, especially one with my financial track record. So thank you for trusting us, and I hope you've been able to enjoy the run-up to today with minimal stress, which was always our intention. Thank you also for everything you have done throughout my life. You gave Michael, Sophie and I the most wonderful childhood, and your unconditional love and support has made us the amazing people we are today. I know I wasn't the easiest child to bring up, with my ever-changing hobbies and career choices. And I am so lucky to have had parents who supported me in every decision that I made. In return, I assure you both that only the finest nursing home awaits you.
Julie's gone.
Michael, we were inseparable as children, and I have always looked up to you and relied on you throughout my life. I am particularly glad we decided to study the same degree at UCL, as I have no idea how I would have got through my degree without copying all of your essays. You have always protected me and advised me, and apart from the time you locked me in a sofa bed, I feel so incredibly lucky to have you as a brother. Sophie, although it took me a little while to accept a third member into our sibling team, wait, it's getting nice. I could not be happier now that you came along. What you have already achieved in your life is remarkable, and I feel very proud to call you my little sister, particularly as I know your musical talent came from me. Thank you for being one of my bridesmaids today, and I can only apologise for what we put you through in Amsterdam. Nadia, you were always my partner in crime during our school days, and now an actual partner in crime following the events of the January the 30th. Sorry again for getting you beaten up at your own engagement party. You have always felt like another sister to me, and when I think back on the most important moments in my life, I don't think that there are many of these memories that don't include you. And I couldn't have asked for a better friend to grow up with and to help me through the sometimes hilarious, sometimes horrific stages of adolescence. Round two. Thank you for always being there for me throughout our school days and for every day since. Harriet and Holly, when I decided to study in Wales, I promised my parents I would be a very serious, hard-working student and that there would be absolutely no socialising during my very expensive second degree. Unfortunately for them, I was even more badly behaved than the first time around. But I hope they will be comforted by the fact that those years were some of the best of my life, and this is down to you two. You are two of the most loving, caring, and supportive friends, and in the most wonderful way possible, I already feel like I've known you forever. Thank you for bringing so much fun and love to my life. I feel very lucky to have met you both. Thank you to all 4 of my bridesmaids for being so brilliant today, and also for planning such a fantastic hen weekend in Amsterdam. And thank you to my hens for coming with me. I couldn't have imagined a better way to send off into married life. And that's all I'm going to say about that particular weekend. Diane, Philip, and Detty. When I arrived at Megan's 21st all those years ago, I honestly thought I would never see any of you ever again. Which explains...
Megan, where are you?
Which explains my decision to sing throughout the entire party. I am sure you were also hoping, you might not see me again. But here I am, and I can't thank you and the rest of the Naughty family enough for making me feel so welcome over the last 5 years, and for introducing me to a number of things which are now so very important to me. Spicy food, drunches, Ascot, Bantham, and kayaking.
In your face.
Julia, thank you so much for arranging the choir for today. It absolutely made the service, and Ollie and I will remember the beautiful singing for the rest of our lives. And Brian, that was just the most brilliant, wonderful... Megan, not only are you one of my closest friends and responsible for all of us being here today, but you have also very kindly made the cake, which we are all going to enjoy after dinner, so save some space. Thank you so much. It really means the world to us. And now to my husband. The word I choose to describe Ollie at the beginning of our relationship is reluctant. As I mentioned just now, we met at Megan's 21st, but perhaps unsurprisingly, Ollie didn't speak more than a couple of words to me. After a little sneaky planning by Diane, Megan, and Clearna, however, Ollie and I ended up sitting next to each other at a lunch a few months later. I was delighted. Ollie was horrified. So horrified, in fact, that he left the lunch halfway through without eating. Despite this apparent disinterest, to my surprise, a mere 3 months later, Ollie asked whether I would like to go for a drink, and it all went from there. It was an interesting first few months. I was quickly informed that texting or phone conversations were only for logistical purposes. And at my suggestion that we should go on a mini break together after a few months of dating, Ollie very innocently replied, "Why would I want to go on holiday with just you?"
It's a fair question.
me between these slightly confusing moments, there was always the charming, intelligent, fun-loving Ollie that I fell in love with. He will be very embarrassed if I say too many emotional things about him, but I do need to say that, Ollie, I love you so much. You make me laugh every single day we're together, and I couldn't hope for a more wonderful husband to share my life with. Emily Bronte once said of marriage, whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same, and that is truly how I feel about us. And finally, thank God, I want to thank every one of you for being here today. It means the world to us that you're here to celebrate with us, and we look forward to the many memories yet to come that we'll share with you all. So please join me in raising a glass to family, friends, and Ollie.
So when Ellie first asked me to do a speech, I was of course honoured. What I didn't realise is that she was going to completely nail her speech and set the bar really quite high, so bear with me. I still clearly remember meeting Ellie for the first time. It was 2001, so we were about 14 years old, and she was the new girl at school. Very pretty, very blonde, very small, and dressed nearly exclusively in pink corduroy. She matter-of-factly told me to call her Eleanor, not Ellie, and that she had a pony called Bijou. Needless to say that as a tall, lanky brunette with no pony to speak of, I didn't like her very much. However, much like everyone else who crosses Ellie's path, it wasn't long until she had won me over. And I've been very lucky to call her one of my closest friends, my best friend really, for the past 15 years. So, over the course of writing this speech, I've had to think very hard about what it is that makes Ellie so incredibly special, and how exactly she has managed to endear herself. Not just to me, but to all of us here today. Of course, the first thing you notice about Ellie is that she's a real hottie. To this day, she is the only person I know to have received multiple love letters, Valentine's Day cards, even marriage proposals. And all often... and often from complete strangers. The effect she has on members of the opposite sex is further compounded by her wonderful singing voice. In fact, at least one of those proposals occurred directly after Ellie had spontaneously burst into a rendition of Ave Maria after a night out in Edinburgh.
Do you not remember?
The name Ellie D had celebrity status where we were growing up in Canterbury, and she was universally adored by the male population. At our school leavers ball, while the rest of us were tearing up the dance floor, Ellie could be found in the corner of the marquee, surrounded by what appeared to be all of the male Chinese students. They were standing. They were standing in an orderly queue, waiting to have their photo taken with the famous Ellie. Of course, it wasn't until a few months later that we discovered LED was also the name of an animated adult star. Of loose morals and impressive flexibility. Who featured in the starts. Despite professing their undying love for Ellie, many of these young men, you'll be pleased to hear, Bill, didn't actually know Ellie very well at all.
Most of them.
They had taken one look at Ellie and decided she could be their princess. Someone to be placed on a pedestal. Someone who would always agree with them, who would smile sweetly, who would never fight back. Well. What they didn't realise is that Ellie is so much more than a pretty face. And had these young men had the chance to get to know her, they would have quickly learned that she's also a far cry from princess material.
I don't quite know what you mean by that.
I can trace the genesis of our friendship back to a Year 9 coach trip to Belgium. Against my wishes, I had found myself sat next to the new girl, who, by the way, is still wearing her pink corduroy. And I resigned myself to a long 7 hours of listening to my mini-disc player. Within minutes, however, Ellie was teaching me how to give an effective dead leg and a mean Chinese turn. This was no prim princess. This was a girl with a love of mischief who knew how to fight. It was this shared sense of mischief that would provide the basis of our friendship. A year or so later, thanks to some fortuitous timetabling, we found ourselves in the same chemistry class, where instead of balancing equations, we spent most of our time discussing the various merits of the boys in the year above, secretly listening to bad R&B music and generally being a pain in the ass. Unsurprisingly, our poor, beleaguered teacher eventually saw it necessary to separate us. To my benefit, he blamed the disruption entirely on Ellie, which is why she spent the entire remaining year of our GCSE science course sitting in isolation at the back of the class, where she was made to face the wall. Ellie, to this day, I feel responsible for your severely underwhelming knowledge of the periodic table. And for that, I am sorry. So, she's no goody two-shoes, but she's also much tougher than she looks. While the rest of us took regular summer jobs working as waitresses, bar assistants, shop assistants, Ellie took on the challenge of dealing with an extensive and barbaric slug infestation at the local gardening centre, armed with nothing but a pair of scissors. Her reward, £4.25 an hour, a fetching farmer's tan, and abs of steel. Not only is she tough, this princess is also fiercely competitive, as Ollie's already mentioned. I want you to picture the scene. It's 2005, and it's the first night of Freshers' Week at UCL. Everybody's dressed to impress, concerned with first impressions, making new friends, maybe feeling a little shy. So to break the ice, a competition is announced. It's a pizza eating competition. The volunteers assemble, a mixture of burly rugby players, slightly podgy gaming geeks, and in amongst them all, our princess, Ellie. No prizes for guessing who came first. I've already alluded to the fact that Ellie is a bit of a fighter, and you may have had mention in her speech of, well, a bit of a criminal record. But the benefit of this is that she will always have your back.
Yes.
So to tell the full story, earlier this year, my fiancé and I celebrated our engagement. It was a very intimate event. We only hired out an area in a bar, and only close friends and family were invited.
Not me.
Sorry, Julie. As the evening progressed and the dancing began, 4 women entered the area we had reserved for our guests. They weren't particularly welcome, and as the considerate and loyal friend that she is, Ellie made sure to let them know. When her usual powers of persuasion failed her, Ellie resorted to brute force. In the ensuing kerfuffle, I emerged with a black eye, a letter of apology, and £100 in compensation from my assailant. Ellie, on the other hand, emerged with a criminal record. and importantly, the offer of a date with the investigating officer. So, now we know the truth about our unconventional princess. Mischievous, tough, competitive, and fiercely loyal. Ellie is all of these things. But what really makes her so special to me is that she is, for want of a better word, a bit of a goof. Quick to laugh, including at herself, and guaranteed to always see the funny side of any situation. Quite simply, life is an immeasurably sunnier, brighter place with Ellie in it.
Yeah.
So, who could possibly be up to the challenge of being her prince? It was just over 5 years ago now that Ellie had told me she'd met the man she was going to marry. Yeah. It may not have been the first time she told me that, but I'm very pleased to say it was. It's rather ironic that after so many proposals over the years, Ellie fell for the one man who took quite a considerable amount of convincing. But even Ollie is not impervious to Ellie's charms, and I'm delighted that we are here today celebrating this wonderful couple's wedding. Ellie and Ollie, you are going to make one another incredibly happy. You already do. Apart from the fact that you're both outrageously good looking, you're also very well suited. For those of you who know Ollie, you'll know that his suave appearance is altogether misleading. He may be the only person I know who could out-goof Ellie any day. But seriously, this is a man who loves Ellie for all of her charm and beauty, both inside and out. So finally, thank you, Ellie, for being such a wonderful friend. We've spoken about this day countless times over the years, and I actually can't believe it's finally here. I am over the moon happy for you both. And finally, I ask you all to be upstanding and raise a glass to this beautiful, charming, fun, tough, mischievous, competitive, goofy princess and her rather goofy prince.
stand in the foreground.
You're the best, bro! I'll probably just sit back down because no one's doing anything.
Tom, just
You're up.
Yeah?
Back on.
no, you do it.
Bridesmaids and groomsmen, and of course the happy couple. I'd just like to start off by saying how lovely all of the bridesmaids are looking. As a single man, I must say I was rather upset to know that all of the bridesmaids have boyfriends. Well. Except Ellie's sister, of course. However, I think we can all agree that would be wildly inappropriate.
We're going there at the beginning.
Including
We haven't even started.
Now, for those who don't know me,
I'm
while we're on
wildly
while we're on the topic of wildly inappropriate, my name is the noble Thomas Paul Clovis Gandolfi. Dei Conti delle Catena Sibide Mori. And I've known Ollie since the first week of university. Now, I have to say, when Ollie asked me to be his best man, after 13 years of friendship, I figured the main reason he'd asked me to be his best man was that, being as he was getting married first, that whatever I did to him on the stag or said about him at his wedding, he could do tenfold back to me when it was my turn to get married.
True story.
On that basis, if I do get married, I have no intention to invite you to my stag or to my wedding. Now, before it does, I'd just like to give all of our congratulations to the happy couple and reiterate what a fantastic job Ollie, Ellie and their lovely parents have done in preparing this wedding, so thank you.
Thank you.
So, Ollie. Now, I unfortunately didn't know him when he was a child, but judging how he was when I met him, I can't imagine he changed all that much between 6 and 19. At least not mentally, anyway. And realised that clearly this was something that we both had in common. Ollie, however, has come a long way since the fresh-faced boy that I met at university. To put this in context, this was a boy who, when told to go to bed after a night out, would stand up and shout, "Fine!" and then proceed to pull his trousers down around his ankles and pass out on the sofa. Each their own. A boy who liked to combine his natural competitiveness with his obsession for chili by challenging his cousins to a game of fives to see who could eat a teaspoon of the world's hottest chili paste.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Miles, someone had to lose, causing him to spend the next couple of hours in the toilet being violently sick. Well, that ended well. Nice one. Bearing all this in mind, I've asked myself the question, how on earth has Ollie become marriage material? If someone like him has come this far, perhaps I could get some tips. Clearly, kindness and generosity are important in any relationship. Our friend Ewan and I saw this man's generosity firsthand when we were still at university and he was busy doing his first job in London. One cold winter's evening, we received a call from Ollie. And he told us that he'd received some awesome news. I've been made redundant! And they gave me some redundancy pay, and I'd like to take you both on a trip to Berlin. Now, to be fair, I was pretty surprised to hear how happy he was, considering he'd just lost his first job. However, as a poor student, I didn't care. So gladfully accepted his kind offer. He told us he would pay for all accommodation and all travel. Ellie, this is the kind, generous man you've married today. So, the three of us jumped in his small VW Golf and drove off to Berlin, looking forward to the next 3 days ahead. First thing we did there was, well, grab a few beers, naturally, after a long journey. And as it started to get dark and cold, I asked Ollie, where are we staying? Staying? Yeah, where are we staying over the next, 3 nights? Oh no, we haven't got anywhere to stay, we're sleeping in the car. Oh, and by the way, shotgun back seat. Generous and kind, Ollie. I hope for Ellie's sake that the honeymoon doesn't entail such luxury. As I'm sure you all know, Ollie is a very intelligent man, and certainly has learnt from his mistakes in life. In first year of university, he was doing history of art as a side course and managed to get a massive 39% without doing any work or going to one lecture in the whole year. Quite a feat. Anyway, shame the pass mark was 40%, so he came back for the retakes, where I was also doing my retakes. And after 2 months of solid revision and really hard work, I remember I barely saw him, quite incredibly got 24%. I guess the lesson he learned from that was, quite literally, the less work you do, the more successful you are. I think, however, the most important attribute for any husband is to be caring and look after the ones he loves. I've never known a man who cares so much about the ones he loves, especially his family, and would do anything he could to protect them. Yeah. I always like to think of myself as his brother from another mother.
I can't believe just because it's so bad.
And he never showed this more to me than at university, when I found myself being threatened by a man with a broken bottle outside a nightclub. Well, actually, Ollie was the one being threatened by the man with the broken bottle, but then wandered off and left me to calm him down. Small detail. Anyway, for the next couple of minutes, I was pretty sure I had the situation under control, despite the guy getting more aggressive and prodding me with a broken bottle. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, I see Ollie, ready to save the day, run through the crowd like a Zulu warrior, and suddenly, out of nowhere, Ollie came running, absolutely smashed, clean hit, take out my legs and nail me to the floor. Incidentally, we then received a scrap on the floor for the next 5 minutes, confusing the hell out of the guy with the broken bottle. Who then just got bored and wandered off. Ollie, wise beyond his years, managed to figure out somehow, in his slightly inebriated state, that taking me out was the safest option. Now, all jokes aside, Ollie and I have been closest friends since I was 18 years old. And anyone close to him will agree that you never have a dull moment around him. I had the pleasure of living with Ollie and Ellie for a few years back. They say you never have a great friend. They say you know you have a great friend when you have the ability to spend hours talking about absolutely nothing and still have a great time. Ellie enjoyed, well, I'm actually not sure Ellie enjoyed at all being in the room when we did. Apparently taking it in turns to say, is it? Isn't it? Is it? Isn't it? For like 10 minutes, like a pair of baby chimps. Apparently that doesn't constitute a real conversation, but that's new to me. Perhaps that might be something to do with why 2 months later they threw me out of the flat. I've obviously mentioned the bridesmaids, but I'm sure we can all agree, Ellie, you're looking truly wonderful this evening. I have never met anyone who makes Ollie so happy, and most importantly, loves him exactly the way he is. Despite all of his flaws. You are a caring, kind and beautiful person, and I really believe that both of you are made for each other. Truth be told, Ollie has grown up considerably since we were younger, but has kept his fun-loving view on life. He's always been there for his friends, as I know he will always be there for Ellie. To see the love and joy that you two bring to each other gives us an example to us all. And to that, I would like to ask everyone to stand up and raise their glasses.
Yeah.
To what? To the bride and groom.
The bride
Exquisite. Exquisite.